Hi there and welcome to Marketing 101 Big Steps for Small Businesses, the podcast that takes the overwhelm out of marketing and brings you tips, tricks and actions to enhance and grow your business. My name is Alex. I'm a marketing consultant and the owner of Marketing 101, Brighton's favourite marketing agency, prove me otherwise, and of course the host of this podcast. Just an FYI, you can listen to the episodes of this podcast in any order. Just scroll through, see which ones take your fancy or are of use to your business, and go for it. You might notice, well, first of all, we're on video. That is a first for Marketing 101 podcast. We've transitioned to video. You might also notice we've been away quite some time. We've very much been working on the business over the last 6 months rather than in it. Made some significant changes, which you're going to hear all about in this episode. We just kind of took a pause on Marketing 101 news and the regular educational episodes. So welcome back. We've missed you. I hope you've missed us. We're excited to be back podcasting, videocasting, and to be hanging out with you all again. Thank you for still being subscribed and hopefully watching this episode with us. We will be bringing back the educational content, maybe the Marketing 101 news as well. We are back today with a really exciting episode. We've recently created a new kind of senior leadership team in Marketing 101, a creative hive mind that's bringing about a significant change to our business. So we're going to be talking all about that today. You're going to meet the team. There'll still, I'm sure, be plenty of insights. So feel free to grab a notebook unless you're driving. And yeah, let's crack on with the content. So welcome, Joe and Ian. How's it all going? Joe, what are those photos behind you and why haven't I seen them before?
And these are two beautiful works of art, actually, by a photographer called Clarence Sinclair Bull, who was a famous Hollywood photographer. It's Greta Garbo and Gary Cooper, who are just the coolest of the cool. So they grace our screen today.
Absolutely. And Ian, how's everything going with you? All right?
Yes, very well, very well. And so I'm delighted to join Marketing 101, as I'm sure you'll explain as we go along. Still very early days, but really enjoying it and very happy to be here.
Ah, well, thank you. Yeah, it is early days. It is, what is it? It's probably a month now, I guess, is it? It was end of April. Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't we just start with a very quick job titles and roles within Marketing 101, what it is that you focus on. We'll go into more depth later, learn all about what it is that you guys are amazing at. Joe, you've been with us, is it maybe 6 or 7 months, I think?
7 or 8 even.
Yeah, okay. And you started as, I guess, we're pretty unstructured here at Marketing 101. You were just a marketing person, same as a lot of us. Tell us about your kind of current job role.
Yeah, so I started at Marketing 101 essentially creating content. And that's mushroomed, as content has a tendency to do, to the point now where I'm content lead and managing a selection of our accounts that just have content from us. A typical client might have a package that is 12 social media posts a month, 1 blog a month, 1 newsletter a month. And that group of content hangs together really nicely. So my role is creating it, generating it, organizing it, and then communicating with the client in the back and forth on how that looks and feels for them.
Yeah, and I think what I think you do amazing is you really get under the skin of the brand. I think a lot of agencies, they're often just, kind of content factories churning out the bare basics, but I think you do a great job of really almost living each brand, researching and understanding and getting quite excited about them. So we'll talk a bit more about that when we talk about some of our clients later on. And Ian, 1 month in, why on earth have I brought you into Marketing 101? You tell me.
Oh, you brought me. I thought you'd better ask why have I joined, but you switched the question around the other way. Why you brought me in? Okay. That wasn't the one I was expecting.
Oh, I like to keep you on your toes.
Exactly. So my background is long-term publishing. For many years, I was editing magazines and publications. In doing so, you're creating content that has to be interesting enough for the readers to enjoy and engage with. But also, in those businesses, you're doing social media, you're doing email marketing. Eventually, I decided that publishing was a difficult place to be because, people don't buy advertising in newspapers and magazines as much as they used to. So about 5-6 years ago, I switched over to marketing and actually then really expanded my knowledge across SEO, across paid for social, across all of the huge breadth of things you can do in marketing. And I've actually then held a few senior marketing roles, one in recruitment, one in telecoms. And then I actually then went freelance. So I guess over the years, I've got quite a wide variety of different skills. And I think the nature of Marketing 101 is you've got a really wide and diverse range of clients, all sectors, all sizes. So I guess my skill is that I'm actually used to adapting to different markets, different skills, and I'm able to be quite flexible.
Absolutely.
Unless you have another reason.
Well, there's countless reasons for bringing you in. And your role now, we're not big on job titles here. We've got a few jokey job titles. Broadly, we're calling you kind of head of digital, which is very broad because we are very much focused on content creation. But where clients need SEO paid for advertising, those are the clients that we'll be placing with you for account management, right?
Yes.
Yeah. People can't hear you nodding. Just FYI, I know we're also doing a video podcast, but people can't hear you nodding.
Okay. I'll do a louder nod next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need you with some janky earrings or something. You've given us a little bit of your history, but like wind all the way back for us. I always find it's really interesting on podcasts to talk about how people have ended up doing what they're doing now. I had this regular thought about, when you go back to school days and what do they call it? Your career guidance or career counselling. And it's always so basic. I don't know if they've improved it these days, but the options for jobs seemed very, very slim, very, very limited. But actually, we all know that it's very rare. I mean, my partner's a great example of someone who studied at school and then university and is still doing the job that they studied for, right? That's actually pretty rare. We come out of education, we find life, we discover opportunities and different paths, and then we end up doing these jobs that we never really knew existed. They weren't talked to us, about at school. I like that kind of we're a sum of our parts. I like that kind of talking point. Where did you begin, Ian? We don't literally need to hear about what you did at. I was going to say GCSEs. I think you might have been what were they called? Owls?
Let's say O-levels.
O-level.
Owls is Harry Potter, isn't it? Owls is Hogwarts.
Yeah.
O-levels, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, don't include that, Alex.
Yeah, we don't need to go that far. No, we don't need to go that far back. But where did your kind of work life begin and how did you end up in marketing? You've given us the overview, but let's have a bit of detail.
Sure. I mean, actually, I've been interviewing a lot of marketers recently for my sort of side project, which is Marketing Mix, where I interview marketers. And it's very interesting where every marketer comes from such a different place. My place I came from was being a football fan, which is unusual. Yes. I was working as a computer operator in London. I was a big football fan. And in the 1980s, as to give a bit of context, football was not really a big media thing. The broadsheets like the Guardian, the Telegraph, concentrate on rugby. They might report on one game a week. You'd have football programs. You'd have no Sky Sports or internet or podcasts. And as a football fan, you were pretty much regarded as, in the 80s, as being probably a hooligan and probably not very clever. But there was actually a whole group of people that started creating football fanzines, which is an amazingly beautiful movement where fans from different clubs would create these lovely produced magazines. I'm an Arsenal fan myself, and I created an Arsenal one with my friends. It's a beautiful community where there's no rivalry. You'd all meet up together as fanzine writers of different clubs and just enjoy the fact that you could actually have intelligent conversations. And it was like a sort of, very similar to music fanzines. It's very much a community sort of group, really. But what I discovered then was I seemed to write in a way that people like to read my writing. So it was by accident that I discovered that I could write through the fanzines. And I thought, actually, do you know what? I love this. So I learned how to use, back then, Quark Express, which is the predecessor of Adobe InDesign, or actually a competitor InDesign took it over. I learned how to produce magazines, and I started a career as a magazine editor. My first editing role was Sussex Life. I was probably a bit too young to have the job, actually, because their audience is probably now close to my age now, actually. It was a fantastic job. As over years, you learn how to edit, how to distribute magazines, how to market magazines. that was really my route into marketing via writing. I seem to have a very good skill at editing content as well. So people would send in, especially back in the football days, you'd have a very keen football fan who would send in 15 pages of handwritten text that I'd turn into an article for them. So that's quite interesting now, because actually one of the challenges now is AI is producing an enormous amount of text, but the skill now is actually being able to edit the AI to make it relevant and interesting. So it's sort of come full circle, really. Those skills I was using back in the fanzine days, editing reams of text, have now come back full circles, in terms of ChatGPT or other platforms. So that's my background, really. It is an accidental discovery that I could write through sport.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And I think it's interesting you mention AI, because obviously we're heavily embracing it within the business. I don't think anyone really has an option, but there's a lot of negativity about it. I think it's found its feet over the last couple of years. Obviously, AI and machine learning has been around donkey's years, but since the birth of ChatGPT and the explosion of AI, it's found its feet. And I just think we're creating the most incredible content now using AI in general, largely ChatGPT. But you're right, it's that what clients really want is that humanizing of AI content. The depth, the ideas, the structure. Generally speaking, it's been analyzed now. Humans actually prefer to write AI written content, but it's not necessarily always great at being unique or injecting the brand of the business that you're writing for. So I think it's an exciting skill set that you've brought to the business, and also it's opened up a whole new service for us. Well, what several new services, that we're talking about. The key one is PR, which I've dabbled, when I was working in-house for a company at Paladone, but I've never really embraced it as something that we sell, because it's a realm that I don't really fully understand. So yeah, it's great to kind of have brought that skill set in, and other writing-based skill sets.
So on the PR side, I think PR has actually become very important, because everyone is now doing, 3 LinkedIn posts a week or whichever platform they're doing. People are doing blogs on their websites, which they can often create through AI. So people are now creating a lot of content themselves. So how do you stand out? So the only way you can stand out is to sort of actually just go a bit further or reach a bit further out. So if you actually get your work published by a third party, which, is a big element of PR. So if you actually can get a local magazine or regional news website to publish your articles, it's fantastic for SEO. It's got the backlinks, which help you out enormously. And 2, it just gives you an authority, that your voice, your opinion or your feature is worth a wider audience. So PR is a very interesting section. And I guess my skill from PR comes from most of my life. I was on the other side of PR. So as an editor, PRs are trying to get me to publish their press releases. And I could sort of see over the years what was good, what was bad, how PR companies worked cleverly, how PR companies didn't work so cleverly. So you learn a lot from the other side of the fence. It's almost like the poacher and the gamekeeper sort of approach, really, where I can now see what would maybe attract an editor to actually use our material.
Yeah. Which will obviously aid our clients in getting coverage. It's interesting you talk about the kind of noisiness of the online environment, with everyone posting all the LinkedIn posts and blogs all the time. We often talk about social selling, as I'm sure you've heard me talk about, and that social selling falls under basically anyone selling for you, whether they know they're selling for you or not, who isn't within the business. So we can say we're amazing all we like. Any of our clients can tell their audience they're amazing. But when someone else does it for you, it's so much more impactful. And whether that's through, Google reviews or product reviews, or, people posting influencer marketing, but to have an established media outlet within your industry look at something you've written and say, yes, that's worth sharing with our audience. That's kind of, I think now that's the ultimate recognition that you're doing something of worth, you're creating something of worth, because you can publish it to your blog all you like. Doesn't mean it's actually got any kind of weight to it. Fantastic. Well, it's a joy to have you on board, Ian.
Thank you.
Joe, Tell us your origin story. What's your backstory? I've heard you talk quite a lot about your backstory. I think you've had a fascinating life. So come on, give us some of it.
Thank you. I just finished, as an aside, I just finished watching season 2 of White Lotus.
Wow.
And there's a lovely moment where one character says to Jennifer Coolidge's character, tell me everything, start at the beginning. And she says, well, I was born in San Francisco. And he says, oh, we really are starting at the beginning. So
yeah,
I'm not going to
we
go
don't need to go
back
quite that far back.
Okay.
Oh God, I've just finished White Lotus. White Lotus, is it the 3rd season? It's fantastic.
Oh, I just started season 3.
Oh,
okay.
cracking. So maybe not your birth story, but the origin story.
Yeah. So I started my working life as a teacher in the Steiner School, my first sort of career job. And I don't know if you know about Steiner education at all. Everything is taught through the arts. And so the curriculum's designed with a soul understanding of the nature of the human being. So you deliver English and maths through creative art. Lovely for me. And as a teacher, you also get very involved in other kind of school business activities because there's no head of school, there's no director. The teachers are the College of Teachers. They run every aspect of the business too. So I was doing marketing and PR for the school. It was challenging because when you're running a business collegially, we had to have everyone's buy-in and agreement. So there were lots of things I wanted to do. I was very excited about doing events, and we didn't have social media then. So that was my first sort of gentle foray into it. And then I took redundancy from the school and went to study photography at the University of Brighton. And that's a really prestigious degree. So I was very, very fortunate to get a place, and I just had the most amazing time as a mature student, leaning even more into that kind of creative art side of things. From there, went on to produce photo shoots. I produced Topshop's homepage for a couple of years. I was based in their studio in Reboot on Oxford Street, and then we were in Kentish Town. To see the process of how that worked was really interesting. We'd have a model in. They'd make 70 shots of her one day in all these different outfits. The images would go down to retouch and they'd be online the next day. So it was a very fast turnaround. And all for the sake of, buying and selling, but again, all part of marketing. During that time, I was getting really interested in becoming a life coach. I was going through life circumstances of my own. And I started studying life coaching. I went to train with a school in the state who had a very thorough life coach training, but also very thorough entrepreneurial training as well. And I was listening to what my coach was saying. Now, she was making millions and millions and millions of dollars. She'd learned from people like Russell Brunson, who, I don't know if you know about him, he created something called ClickFunnels.
Wow. Okay.
And he really talks about the science of how a buyer goes from not knowing you at all to going down your funnel to purchasing what it is you're offering. And I just was fascinated by that. I was fascinated about how you could use language to something sound really irresistible to a buyer. And while so many people were saying, sales is so manipulative, I just thought, actually, oftentimes we're looking for things to help us in our life. And if someone's speaking to us in a way that's compelling, there's an art to doing that. And I'm really interested in that. Like, how can we compel someone and how can we help them to give them the thing that they want? So, for example, with some of our clients, one of our clients is a bookkeeper. When I'm putting her content together, how can I help her audience really understand what she's offering and make that a good match for them?
I think it's really interesting. I can't remember, I saw it recently, but it was in some kind of questionnaire almost, or maybe it was a TikTok video, who knows? But it kind of asked, do the most successful businesses sell something that people need, or figure out what they want to sell and then make people need it? And as a marketer, my brain fell towards the latter, right? Which is, well, the joy is create something really cool, something profitable, and then figure out your story to try and make people want it, that impulse purchase. But that is not where the most successful businesses come from. It's from spotting a need, fulfilling that need to the best of their abilities, and then finding the people that actually need it. And I think there's quite a big negative outlook about marketing. The word marketing often comes along with kind of booze and, because it seems that we're trying to force people to do something or to buy something that they never needed. And it's just all this big money-making machine. But actually, I think the majority of the businesses that we work with, we're very lucky in that they are selling something which is a requirement. It does help businesses or help people in some way or another, even if it is some novelty item or merchandise or whatever that just makes them feel good or makes them feel part of a community or, scratches a nostalgic itch. It's not forcing anything down someone's throat. And modern marketing is not about that. And the most successful marketers understand that you've just got to find the audience and speak to them and allow them to join you on a journey rather than here's what I'm selling, do you want it? Or trying to twist their arm into feeling like they need it. So yeah, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. And I think you just really touched on something so key that is resonant for me, is that when I'm creating content, I'm always thinking about how do I want the consumer of this content to feel? Because the emotions that we feel are going to be the thing that will drive us to take action.
Yeah. We've recently talked, here we go, listeners with your pens out. I don't know how well known this is now, but throughout the history of marketing, we've always talked about USPs. That is still a bit valid. It's very tropey. We've all talked about it for donkey's years. And if you are truly a pizza chain that says we'll get your pizza to you in 25 minutes or it's free, that is a USP. It's not entirely unique, but you can still go down that route. But what we talk about more regularly these days is OESPs. So the ESP stands for emotional selling point, and the O simply stands for owned. So an owned emotional selling point, owned being you've identified the emotional selling point and you're going to adopt it into your marketing. So more often than not these days, we're talking about how you make your audience feel, how you want to make them feel, and how can you, it's not even getting them to emotionally attach. It's just mirroring their emotions, how they feel, and making them feel aligned with your brand or giving them the opportunity to feel aligned with your brand. We won't go into it in any more depth, but have a Google OESP. It's a whole new world when it comes to designing your marketing content. So Joe, your side hustle, and I love that you both have side hustles as well. You're both almost full-time at Marketing 101, kind of 4-ish days a week. Your side hustle is the life coaching. What's the website? Where can people go and find you?
Yeah, joerenshaw.com.
Easy.
So yeah, I did touch on that when I was talking about my coach training and this entrepreneur track training that she has as well. So I've been doing a lot of marketing for my own business, obviously, but my own business is a life coach and I don't want to be just marketing in that. Obviously it needs marketing, but I love the activity of marketing. So to join Marketing 101 and do marketing for the sake of marketing is it's so fun for me because I get to really exercise my creative outlet. And then my own business, I get to do some marketing and I get to coach too, which I'm equally passionate about.
Yeah, I only knew you as a life coach initially from, the Brighton networking scene. And when the job came up at Marketing 101, it became available and you registered some interest. Whilst I know we'd had some conversations around marketing in the past, I hadn't fully understood the depth of your marketing ability. So it's a real eye-opener when we talked and you were like, yeah, here's what I'm doing with email funnels and my social media and my content and video content and all these amazing things. And of course, it's we're all self-learned. None of us here have, marketing university, so I don't know what the word is, qualifications, there we go, around marketing, but we are all self-learned. And I think it's a brilliant thing because I think marketing is one of those things that it is a gut feeling. It is a constant learning platform. So and here you are now at Marketing 101, eight-ish months later. So very, very pleased to have you on board as well. Ian, you mentioned your side hustle, the marketing mix. So any marketers out there want to get interviewed and onto Ian's website. What is the website?
It's marketing-mix.co.uk.
Lovely. So if you've got a unique stance on a marketing activity or theory, then that's the one, right?
The reason behind it was in my career, I've worked in sales and in marketing. When you work in sales and you see the salesperson for a competitor out there, it does tend to be a lot of one-upmanship and competitiveness and, trying to sort of, it's not always overly friendly.
Yeah.
But when you work in marketing, you see a marketer from another company, even if in the same industry, you get chatting and you compare notes. It's just sort of much friendlier. But I discovered this actually really when I worked for Harvey John, who's a local accountancy and legal recruiting company. So it's a recruitment company, and I was on my own there as the marketer. And I found this group called the Lonely Marketers, which was this enormous network of recruitment marketers. I can't believe the guy's name now, but it's an amazing setup. This WhatsApp group was incredible. It'd be like full of like, what do you think about this platform? And everyone dive in, say, I'll try this, do that. And it was really, really collaborative. And they'd have meetups in London, in Manchester. And the whole ethos of marketing professionals seems to be, if you're working for a competitor, you're not my enemy. You're someone I can compare notes with. So that was the basis of Marketing Mix. I thought, well, let's continue that and actually sit down and interview marketing people, especially with niches. If you're an SEO expert or a branding expert, sit down. So, for instance, with Bill Walsgrave, we know brand ad, for instance, I sat down with Bill.
He's been on this podcast.
Branding.
Yeah, we've had him on the podcast. Yeah.
It's fantastic. One, it's just really interesting. And secondly, I learn so much. And thirdly, I like to celebrate people that are good at what they do. So it's just really a celebration of marketing excellence and knowledge, really.
I'm still waiting for my invite, I'll be honest. I'm sure you'll get me on in no time. Amazing. So in regards to, because what we're really excited about, and hopefully this doesn't come across on the podcast like a sales pitch. At this point, I imagine the only people listening are, those people who are engaged in the journey of Marketing 101, my journey, learning more about what we do. But what I'm really excited about, and we've alluded to it already with PR, is the growth of Marketing 101. We've done some articles recently around what we're calling the reboot. I've found that previously Marketing 101 were very much known for the tactical delivery of marketing. So you want some social media, we'll do it. You want some blogs, we'll do it. We do it to a very high level. And I think that's partly because when I'm talking, and I do a lot of education slots and seminars, etc., I'm always talking in very tactical terms. My presentations or education slots, or even these podcasts, they're very rarely about theory, and they're not very TED talky. They're kind of go here, click this, type that, try this. It's a lot of actionable takeaways. So it's very much about the doing of marketing. In the reboot, I think we've gone much broader, right, into brand and strategy.
I think it's very true, actually, what you said about your presentations. They have been do this, click here, go there, etc. Very sort of practical. But actually, that's something I think is something that has got you noticed over the years. Because if you actually sort of do, I've actually done some online marketing courses, etc. And they're so sort of broad and general and theoretical. You think at the end of it, I don't actually think I learned anything. It's just, it's so sort of, so broad and so general and generic and textbooky. I didn't really find any value. But when someone says, actually, Joe, if you're doing this exercise, you really should try that or do this. Here's the link. Here's how I done it. I think that's actually sometimes it's underrated of how valuable that is.
I get good feedback about them all, definitely. I actually had recently one person told me that they had not quite a marketing career, but they'd been coming to the Big Business Breakfast Club where I speak every month. They'd been coming for 3-4 years. And they told me that they'd recently got a freelance customer doing their social media for them. And she literally said, I've never studied anything anywhere else. Everything I do for them is stuff I've written down during your presentations. She's got a job out of it. She's like, I've been earning money for the last 6 months because of what I learned. So no, I know there's value there. I just also think it kind of led towards Marketing 101 being seen as more tactical delivery rather than brand and strategical.
Before I joined Marketing 101, I would take notes at those big business breakfast talks and implement the things straight away because those talks are very practical, very actionable. I think you did one about a podcast where in 15 minutes you showed us how to go from zero to podcast in one go.
Yeah, that was definitely a memorable one. And I'm recreating it, as you know, at the business show, Brian and Hope Business Show next week. This episode will be out before then, I believe. The one I get reminded of the most, how to beat the LinkedIn algorithm. So how to get more views, clicks, impressions, comments, etc. on LinkedIn. Dear listeners, dear viewers, there is a podcast episode in this podcast all about how to beat the LinkedIn algorithm. So that's the one I get reminded of the most. So if you're going to go and listen, if you're brand new here, if you're going to go and listen to any of the historic podcasts, how to beat the LinkedIn algorithm is the one to go back to. So where I was getting to is the new skill sets. What have we brought to Marketing 101? I talk a lot about, as I said, previously we were tactical delivery. Now I've got this 4-stage journey that is how I'm describing this reboot and this new wave that we've brought to Marketing 101, which is brand first, then strategy, then creative, and then tactical delivery. Brand is challenging. We've recently had a client launching a new service. We were able to challenge them on that. The service, on the brand, how they were going to present it, drive that through to the strategy. So who are we going to be targeting? What areas, what publications, what kinds of marketing? How can we think outside the box and make a splash? Through to the creative. So imagery, photography, copy, web pages, all of that kind of stuff. And then through the tactical delivery. Now we'll do the social media, the blogging, the PR, with all of that, the preamble, which is the most important stuff, understanding the essence of your brand, the OESPs, how we want to make people feel. And then we can do a 10 times better job with your actual tactical delivery. So that's what I think we've brought it's not necessarily a skill set, but from a service opportunity to Marketing 101. But on a personal level, what are your kind of special subjects? Joe, you've already mentioned the kind of art direction, photo shoot direction, which I think is fascinating. I'm dead keen to, I know we have some photography within the business. We also have a lot of local photography connections. I'm dead keen to try and find a client where we can do some photo shoots for and tap into that. What else do you see as your kind of superpowers?
I think seeing a brand visually go together is something that I absolutely love doing, and understanding just to keep things really simple from a brand perspective. I see I see it in coaching. It happens a lot of new coaches trying to create a brand and making it very overcomplicated. I think there's real beauty in keeping a brand really simple, and the skill of decision making. Like, what color are we going to use? What fonts are we going to use? What imagery are we going to use? Bish, done. We're not going to keep going back and changing that, because that visual identity of the brand becomes an anchor for the audience to recognize them, and it's what creates awareness and familiarity, and it helps build that know, like, and trust. So yeah, that visual identity, that visual growing, art direction, photography, writing, and now, because I'm using AI to help with the writing as well, which is a new skill set because it's such a new arena. And I've written for years and years and years, but to have AI as a tool to help me is fascinating. It's making me think in very different ways. It's making me ask very different questions of our clients to get to know their brand and their offering and their audience.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to go into, maybe we should do some like an AI top tips episode, but I've found it incredible. And I think one thing that AI has really helped us do is to get our understanding of a brand, which we've gleaned from the client, then onto paper. And just a quick tip again, I like to give little actions for people with pens out. What I do is, when we are talking to a client and then pitching to a client and then delivering for a client, go into a meeting with that client, record the meeting, ask all the questions, ask the questions about the brand and how they feel about the brand and what it means to them. The questions that before we might not have bothered asking because it got lost in the detail. I mean, who's writing down all the notes? Who's going to, translate those particular nuggets of information into something deliverable? But now with AI, you can ask much deeper questions, about the brand. You can take the transcript. I then chuck the transcript into chat. I will take anything else I've got about that client. So maybe they've given us, their brand guidelines, or copy and paste their URL, lists of competitors, ideas that we've had when we've been brainstorming what we can do. I chuck it all into AI. Then I go on a dog walk and I start talking through my headphones to AI. And you can chat for an hour and just say, ask me more questions to truly understand the brand. Because also, obviously everything's in the transcript, but what isn't in the transcript is my emotions of how I feel the brand makes me feel. And, I'm a bit of a feelings chameleon, right? I'm an empath. I can understand how other people feel. And it really draws this most amazing thoughts and information out of me through really interrogating me. And then at the end of the dog walk, then you go away and say, right, let's now build the proposal, or let's build the strategy, or let's build the website brief. And the content it puts out, I find it really then hits home with the client or a third party, a web developer reading the website brief. They go, God, I really get what you're trying to achieve with this website. I understand what you want it to make people feel. So there we go. That's my top AI tip. Joe, one thing I think you do amazingly, by the way, is a bit of a brand chameleon. I think it's amazing. You managed to really, part of the issues, or one of the complexities with an agency, is that you have to jump from a client doing events into another client doing HR, another one selling online fish. You really have to jump around, but you've got an amazing ability to dig into those clients. And the example that jumps to mind is SWFA. So we have a great client called Sex Worker Friendly Accountants. They are accountants for the legal sex work trade in the UK. So very niche, very progressive, and as you can imagine, an amazing opportunity for brand voice and content and all those kind of things. But you've become almost like a sex work, a legal sex work aficionado, and can just throw yourself into that world. You've done background reading and all this research, and I think that's a real skill set for you. You clearly enjoy it.
Yeah, I love working on that account. I mean, first of all, what I don't know about accounting is not worth knowing. Ask me anything. But I meet that account with so much fun because I get to research the history of sex work, current affairs around sex work. The things I've learned, I just have no idea about. It's legal in Australia. I think it's Belgium. I had just passed new rules to make it legal. So
wow.
It's been really interesting and eye-opening.
Yeah. It's a really fun content as well. We've got a series on their social media, a post series called Can I Claim It? Which for any other business, staff party or computers, can I claim it? But for a sex worker, I'll leave it all to your imagination. But yes, we cover it. We cover, can you claim that back against your tax? It's fascinating. So yeah, really fun account.
It's been an interesting one. Something I wanted to add actually is a skill set that I bring that I really love do is think about the customer journey. So it's not just about the customer journey of once they become a customer of your brand, but it's the journey that they go through in the marketing, from not knowing you at all to seeing your content for the first time, deciding to sign up to your newsletter, engaging in your email marketing. I think of it as a narrative, that route that the potential customer takes from completely what we call in the technical frame, completely cold lead, through signed up and paid for. All those little moments that they'll engage with your brand and the things that need to happen at those points. So at this point, do they need to be shown another advert, or do they need to be shown another social post, or do they need to have another email sent to them because they clicked on the link? And joining up that emotional journey that they take and the technical side of all the things that need to happen is really fascinating. And I like the very detailed process of putting all that together.
Yeah, there's a podcast episode that I'm planning season 3 as we talk. I think customer journey, from awareness through to advocacy, I think that'd be a great one to cover. Absolutely. Ian, so we've talked briefly about local PR, which is a service that we're now offering. We've got our first client next month, an estate agent undergoing a rebrand, and we're going to tell the world, Sussex, all about it, which is exciting. But what other, things are you bringing to Marketing 101?
Sure. So obviously I spoke about the written content and the graphic design. I think one of the things I'd like to bring is I do believe that I sometimes see things a bit differently. So I like to, when you see a client, speak to a client, rather than just think about the traditional ways you might market it, I always try and think about what can make you stand out and make you, sort of a bit, some quirky ideas. And that's what I hope to bring, is a bit of imagination and creativity to our strategies.
Yeah, and
And
I was going to say
so-
that's exactly where it fits in the kind of brand strategy, creative tactical delivery. That strategy, I think, is something that we've almost never had time before, and bringing you into the business and rearranging this senior leadership team. Some of the brainstorms we've had with clients, you absolutely bring that, and you've allowed all of us to think a bit more differently about, well, so you want to get known. It's not just social pay-per-click content. How about this event? How about some thought leadership pieces? How about PR? How about positioning yourself as a speaker, or how about a partnership with a local museum, or whatever it is, So yeah, I think that's definitely an exciting thing that you've brought. Yeah.
And so thinking back to my old career in publishing, another thing I used to do was design adverts. So if somebody wants to advertise the magazine, I'd often design the advert for them. And that's quite interesting because that very much comes into branding, because often the person has not advertised before, so they've not actually got a brand established. So you're almost trying to create a mini brand within the advert, which is, I know it's not how you should do it, but you've got to try and create some sort of a messaging. And I always used to use the analogy of, I don't know, say Louis Vuitton or a car mechanic. So if Louis Vuitton or Gucci are advertising in Vogue or Cosmopolitan, they would have a double-page spread of a beautiful imagery, and somewhere subtly in the corner you see the branding. They'd let the image and the styling represent the brands, and it was just there in the corner, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, etc. When a car mechanic, and I just use that example, as many trades are the same, wants to put an advert into a local magazine, they want to advertise every part of the car they can fix, and they want to fill up every single bit of space on the copy, and they want to list every service they do in an advert this big. And it's like, no, just don't try and cram everything into this.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes what happens with LinkedIn. It's like LinkedIn, for instance, when people want to do a company post, they want to list everything they do. And it's like, no, people won't read it. Just go back, strip it down, create something that leaps out and attracts people's attention. So I think that's hopefully what I can bring is a bit of fun, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when I was doing my teacher training, we were taught this as the science of mood and quality. And I love that. Is such a great example you gave. Like, you don't need to show every single bit of the car, but if you just show one shiny hubcap or something, it's enough to translate that emotion, that mood, to the person who's interacting with it.
Yeah, it's back to that. You're selling an emotion. It's, what do they say? Again, it's an old marketing trope, right? But like, benefits, not features. And the benefit is for the car mechanic is that you're going to feel safe, trusted. We're going to do an amazing job. The person needs their car fixed. They don't need to see that you can fix that particular element. What they want is to know that you are, trusted and trustable, and that you're going to be professional. And you can't just list those attributes, so you have to show it in your imagery. Yeah, well, that's fascinating. I love it. You've got graphic design skills as well, Ian, I think.
Yeah, sure. So, depends on the size of the magazine. On smaller magazines, I would edit and design a magazine, or sometimes I design as part of a team. So, actually, what actually happened was, going back again, I apologise, going back to the same story, but when I did my first ever football fanzine, I produced it on Microsoft Word, and I sort of scanned in some photographs, really low resolution, because my business partner in the magazine, his brother-in-law or uncle had a printing firm, and he said, we're here, print the magazine for us. So I gave him a pile of piece of papers, a little disc with Microsoft Word, and he goes, what? Well, I won't say exactly what he said. What is this? And he said, right, I'll do it this time. And he gave me a box, which was pretty expensive, of Quark Express, which is, like I say, the predecessor to InDesign. He said, right, don't come back until you've learned that. So I'm not doing that again. So that's why I actually learned InDesign was, or Quark Express was basically said, I'm not, once, yes, never again. Yeah. So I had to go away and just self-learn this software, which is probably the greatest gift I ever had, really, because, that's very expensive software, and I had to learn it.
Yeah. Well, it's a great skill to have within the business. We've always been either using third-party graphic designers, or, we do amazing work on Canva, as well as Joe, our team member Anjali, who's over in Mauritius, makes beautiful Canva artwork. But I think the graphic design is fantastic to bring in. Certainly leveled us up a little bit there. Is that all skill sets? Have we covered it? I'm trying to think. Is that the works? It'll probably do, won't it?
Obviously, your skill sets, Alex, your podcasting and influencer marketing, etc.
Yeah, I mean, my role in the business is sales, right? So I do sales and strategy. I do all the networking and meeting people. Though amazing. If you haven't gathered already, Joe and Ian are both Brighton based, so amazing to build our kind of Brighton and Hove, Sussex facing team. Both very well known on the networking scene. Do a lot of networking, but yeah, largely I guess I do the sales. I think my background has always been very broad brush marketing. I've tend to fallen into talking about podcasting a lot just because I do it. Again, no official training. I think I talk about influencer marketing a lot. I do talk a lot about, marketing theory and tactical delivery. I think what I'm really excited about this is that it's already within a month of forming this senior leadership team, recruiting Ian and Joe, promoting you into this exciting new realm. It's already allowed me to just go back to thinking more broadly, exactly what you were just talking about, Ian. We are all creative ideas people looking beyond the obvious to try and it's a bit of a hark back to the old days of marketing. I think these days everyone falls into this rut of, are you doing social media? Are you doing email marketing? Are you doing SEO? But that is not, that's the fundamentals. That's the basics. Yes, you should be doing it. But what's that one move that you can make that can change everything? We won't talk about it in too much depth because we haven't actually won the job yet. But there is a shop in Brighton that deals in pop culture. And I have, for example, remembered that I've got a friend from a long time ago who writes and produces K-pop music. And there's a massive tie between K-pop, Japanese culture, pop culture. So I'm like, how do we bring music and that pop culture element together using these two amazing different businesses? So that's what I get really excited about is what can you do that's going to break the system and grab loads of attention? So yeah, that's largely me, definitely the strategy and the empath side of things. Other than that, I talk a lot and try to delegate as much responsibility to you guys as possible. I'm just a massive work shirker and proud of it.
Not at all.
No, I know. Do you know what? It's a silly thing to say. I'm always on. I'm always on. I just don't. Yeah, I try not to sit at my computer too much. I guess that's what I'm saying. I like to be out talking and ideating and dog walks with ChatGPT.
But I think that's part of the creative essence of what we do as a company. It's not just about being at a desk 9 to 5. And I think that's also speaks a lot into what work in 2025 is like, what producing work. We understand that if we're sitting at a desk 9 to 5, it doesn't vary. And I take loads of walks. And that's when all my best ideas come to life. Yesterday, I had a day off actually, and I took a road trip to go and visit a friend in Kent. And my ideas are popping like crazy. And I have just now one chat in ChatGPT. I just talked them all. And I said to ChatGPT, just hold this as a repository, organize it in a way that makes sense to me, because if I just learn a transcript, I'm going to have to pick that apart. You can do the picking apart for me and then we'll work on it later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful thing, the way the world has changed in the last 5 years, with obviously the pandemic as the trigger, and a terrible trigger, of course, but, Marketing 101 was born during the pandemic. And I think the way that we've worked has changed as well. And yeah, absolutely, especially working in such a creative city as Brighton, to be out and about as much as possible and, feeling that and feeling like you can step away from your computer and think. I've talked about this probably before on the podcast, but certainly with other people. Back in my previous business, I had quite a big marketing team, and I would encourage them to stop and think. We would have meetings where we would put phones away and I would pause for 10 minutes and say, just with your notebooks, stop and think and write down ideas. Because I think when you're 9 to 5 desk based, there's always something. You finish this job, you go and check your emails, your WhatsApp pings, you're looking at your next meeting, so you're preparing for that. And actually just to stop and go, we've just written a press release. think about it. What's that next level of opportunity? What can we do better? What can be more exciting? What can make it more impactful? Who could I get a quote from to make this actually something they'll definitely publish? How am I going to approach them when I send this press? Just stop and think. I'm the same. Shower thoughts and driving thoughts. For some reason, when you switch off, a different layer of your brain kind of switches on and it starts getting exciting.
Totally, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost at an hour. That's more than anyone really wanted to hear, I'd imagine. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. I will just end because we are, we're a business in growth. We've plugged Joe's side hustle, Ian's side hustle. Just a tiny plug for Marketing 101. You may have worked with this before. If you're Sussex, Brighton based, we have gone slightly further. I'm very proud of what we're doing, the work that we're putting out, the clients that we're working with. It's really exciting. If you're launching a new service, launching a new business, rebranding, launching a new brand, or you just want to revive something and try something new, please come and talk to us. We do really exciting things with brands. You're tapping into a wealth of experience, a huge amount of creativity, and we're kind of a one-stop shop. We have, support from other agencies, but pretty much if it's marketing, we do it. And if we don't, we can bring in people that can support. So if you've got something you want to launch or you want to change, please do come and talk to us. Anything you guys want to add before we say a fond farewell?
Yeah, I want to add that, particularly with the accounts that I've worked on, I know for sure that those clients have got so much time freed up. So it's not just that we're selling marketing. What we're giving you as a business owner is a load of time back. So if you want to have a load of time back in your business, hand over all of your marketing to us.
I love it. And we're giving you, I think as well, which has been really interesting, is a renewed excitement. I think a lot of people, when you're day to day working on your business, trying to get someone just to buy from you, what we're able to do is give you a new leash of energy and excitement about what you're selling, because we get excited about it too. It's all that kind of excitement and harmony is working well for us.
So
amazing. Well, I hope I haven't ruined your day with too much time on this podcast, but I greatly appreciate you both joining. So to anybody listening, thank you also for coming and hanging out with us today. I hope you found it interesting. As I said, if you made it to the end, very, very impressed. If you couldn't take notes or you just want to grab a few of the takeaways, head over to 101blog.co.uk, where we normally stick up a blog that covers off this podcast. Thank you all for joining us today. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. Just search for Alex Ryan. You'll find me. You'll find my face. You can head to alexryanuk.com. That's kind of my personal website with all my stuff. If you want to go and check out Marketing 101, you'll find our website and our social media channels all in our link tree. You'll find those in the episode notes. And do a podcast a favor, hit subscribe, hit like. And the best thing you can do to help us grow is to tell your friends, your colleagues, your business associates all about this podcast. Tell them to come and check it out. We would love that. Fab. Well, thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Good. Well done. We should have scripted this last bit. Thank you, Joe.
thank you.
And we will see you all next episode. Bye-bye.